So I had another really dumb idea for the channel, right? And the last time I did this, you guys really liked it. Of course, that being Wonder Review versus the Morio Warriors. This time being, what if Johnny Joestar fought Part 3 Dio? Now, immediately going into it, yes, I know there's continuity issues here. There's only one corpse part in the entire universe as it's a multiversal singularity. But this is a what if idea that isn't, fully fleshed out in my brain. So, you're just gonna have to accept it and have some fun with it, okay? We did it last time. It wasn't even the original Toru. I just made one up. So for this, just have a bit of fun. Second, you're probably going to say, doesn't the fight take place really early in the morning, meaning that Dio can't fight? For this, we're just going to set the time an hour back, and we basically should get the same result. At least if it's dark enough, Dio can fight. So, there, two of the biggest problems are now out of the way for this what if. Let's just have some fun. So another slight deviation here is that the corpus parts do not get stolen here in this scenario. The goal here is, thanks to Steven Steele, is to just literally drop off the corpse in Manhattan so we can deal with everything else. Basically, because, if you place the corpse in the underground shelter, nobody's going to find it. Nobody's going to even get into it. So basically, that is the goal for Johnny as of right now. It's not too different from the original timeline and shouldn't cause too much of a deviation. It's basically what happens, thanks to Part 8 JoJo and, explaining this to us. So we should be fine here. Nothing too crazy. Flash cut to Valentine endlessly dying thanks to Tusk Act 4 and him being defeated by Johnny. At one point, thanks to maybe random chance or random happening, Valentine would find the Part 3 universe for whatever reason, thanks to, I don't know, luck or maybe fate or destiny, and would meet a Dio that is in America at the time, maybe, finding Poochie or is about to find Poochie. Or hell, he's already found Poochie and is heading back to Egypt. So the original reason why I wanted to do this what if is not because of the fight, but because of the interactions between, alternate universe counterparts and just how these characters would interact. Funny Valentine meeting Dio is just really cool in my mind, personally for me. So how would this interaction go down? I think very similar to how, Valentine found, alternate universe Diego, but more confusing on both parties' parts. More than likely, Funny Valentine's probably going to be questioning why Dio, in this case Diego, looks like that and why he's acting so differently. On the flip side of that, Dio is going to be very confused on why a blonde man just appeared out of nowhere and is questioning about, the corpse parts, a base universe, a Joestar with the infinite rotation. Very confusing stuff. More than likely here, Valentine is probably going to preface the idea, or at least present the idea, I should actually say here, of the corpus parts just being this ultimate tool of power. More than likely, thanks to Dio having the ideas of gravity and fate, some man just came out of nowhere saying, hey, if you defeat this Joestar, you're going to gain an ability, or at least help me in helping, America in this universe gain the ability of, being able to misdirect misfortune from America to different parts in the world. Dio in this scenario will most likely say, yeah, sure, I'll help you, as he isn't going to help Valentine and most likely is going to use the corpse for himself. Interesting. On top of that, I don't think Dio is going to take, Funny Valentine's comments about an invincible stand named Tusk as seriously, or, is like an invincible stand to take seriously. Honestly, and, Funny Valentine is giving him time to prep here, but even then we know that Dio, when he had time to prep for the Stardust Crusaders, didn't do that and just used his raw strength to overpower them all. I just don't think Dio is a guy to prep, I guess, quote unquote, just because he's just so physically intimidating. On top of that, he's a vampire. I think that's going to be a big case here. He's really self-centered and has a god complex here. Like, that's basically what I'm trying to say. So other than setting up parts for this what if here, I just think this character interaction in overall genuality would just be cool. Just the fact that these two apex villains are just interacting with each other would be very cool. I'm not a Rocky here, so I don't know what their true dialogue would be, but it would just be super cool to see that. Just, I don't even know what they would say to each other. I think more than likely Dio is probably going to be like snarky about it, like, hey, you're just dying for me and you're asking for help. Isn't that kind of pathetic? And maybe, Valentine says he's the president and Dio says, oh, yeah, you know what, you're kind of still a bitch to me anyway, even if you're the president, but sure, I'll help you just for, my own personal gain. And as this scene closes, for a definite fact, I know Araki would do this, is that I feel like Valentine would feel a sense of regret. Like, did I just make the right decision here? Did I just bring the right Diego into this world? Did he make the right call here? And I think personally here, maybe through like maybe paneling or just maybe not even through actual true dialogue, it's just, you know, a shot. Valentine's like, oh fuck, I fucked up. I think Johnny needs to beat this guy because this guy's like a lot worse than any like low scum bastard that would have used the corpse for evil. Like, this guy is like, I need actual help here. As Valentine just dies thanks to the infinite rotation, and now Dio is now within the Steel Ball Run universe to cause havoc to the rest of the main cast. Also, by the way, probably Funny Valentine through that conversation said most likely Johnny, Stephen Steele, and Lucy Steele are most likely going to Manhattan. Just meet him there and fight him. That's more or less what's probably going to happen to Dio. And Dio says, sure, I'll fight him in New York. And the final encounter happens. So shortly after the Steel Ball Run race concludes, pick a winner. I don't know. Poco Loco wins because of Hey Y'all. We'll just say that. I don't know. And while traveling to the bunker, Dio and Johnny would finally interact with each other. So this is what I primarily want to talk about. Not necessarily the fight, but it's the interactions between these two characters. For Johnny, it's going to be very confusing seeing somebody look like Diego, but kind of not, and dressed totally differently. And then there's Dio, who is seeing, probably through context clues, a younger Jonathan just staring at him on a horse. It's, you know, kind of weird, but like super intriguing because, you know, these characters have history with their alternate counterparts. Now they're, you know, face to face with each other. More so for Dio, to be more specific, and why I say that is because he's known just to monologue to people for whatever reason. It's just in his character to do that, and I feel like in this scenario, yeah, of course there'd be some type of, you know, monologue between him and some alternate Jonathan. It'd more or less kind of be just a comparison between, you know, Jonathan and Johnny for Dio the entire time, at least in my perspective. Because you have to remember here, Dio spent a long time with Jonathan trying to defeat him, quote unquote. And now, all of a sudden, an alternate version of Jonathan is now in front of you. So what do? Start showing off, or at least, you know, comparing the two is what I would think would happen. On the flip side of that, Jonathan is probably realizing, oh, this is probably Valentine's doing, god damn it. Now, how I think the fight would start is that, you know, Dio would probably say the one difference between you and my Jonathan is that he gave his body to me when I requested, and then boom, you know, oh shit. Johnny realizes this guy is completely different from Diego, and of course, Tusk Act 4 versus the world would happen. So how is this fight going to play out? Is it going to be similar? Is it going to be different? You know, what's going to happen here? Well, I think it's probably going to be a lot more similar than you think, but with some, you know, small changes, probably just due to the character. Like I said previously, Dio doesn't have enough time, at least in this scenario, to prep, and he is not the guy to have prep time on his side, just because he just doesn't do it. You know, he had the entire time in Stardust Crusaders to, you know, actually make a plan to defeat them, and just didn't do that, and just sent henchmen to do his job for him. It's most likely due to his ego, but I would just like to preface that yet again. On top of that, Johnny doesn't have any prep time either, but he actually is smart enough to figure out, unlike the Stardust Crusaders, how long time stop is and figure out what time stop was during this fight with Diego. The fight would be a mix between the first encounter between Johnny and Diego and the original, you know, Dio versus Jotaro fight. So a lot of back and forth, but I think, you know, Dio would be smart enough to use time stop to move out of the way of, you know, the bullets firing at him. To use a video game example here, it would just basically be a zoner versus a brawler. If the zoner starts to zone out his opponent, he's probably going to win, but if the brawler gets up and close, he's probably going to win. So it's just kind of idea of who's trying to get the neutral here, I guess. How I'm visualizing it, and just going into my, you know, fandom, you know, nerdy shit here, is that it's probably going to be all over Manhattan. Dio, you know, bouncing off of buildings, you know, dodging bullets, you know, Johnny trying to run away from this guy, trying to get close to him, trying to get at least a good shot in. It's gonna be super cool visually, at least to me in my head, and probably yours if you are creative. And I'm totally seeing this now. Of course, Tusk Act 4, thanks to its spin, can move during time stop. So seeing Dio's reaction to, you know, Johnny being able to invade his world would be super cool to see, and probably what's going to cripple Dio even more in this fight. Unironically, for meme's sake, you could, and I'm just saying this for hypothetical, in a what if, Tusk Act 4 the world could be a thing, but of course, you know, Johnny and Tusk would just move in the world, not actually time stop. You could make an argument here for it because, you you know, Diego never pointed it out to Jonathan, but Dio probably would. So there could be something here, I'm just saying, but I'm not going to enter it because it's just total borderline fan fiction, I'm going to be totally honest. But yeah. So, who wins the fight? While yes, they're kind of even on the surface, once you start to look at it a little bit more crucially, just kind of knowing how both these stands work, Tusk Act 4 has one-shotting capabilities. If Dio fucks up once and gets shot center mass, it's game over. Or it gets hit with, you know, the shot coming right back at him, because Tusk Act 4 works like that. Surprisingly, a lot of people forget about that. But there are some obvious things people are going to say to me in the comments, so I'm just gonna quickly debunk them. First thing being, wouldn't Dio just kill the horse? Diego didn't do that, so I don't think Dio would. And even if he did, Tusk Act 3 alone, probably thanks to its 3D movability and, you know, Johnny being able to camp and hide within the spin hole, is probably strong enough itself to defeat Dio. The more educated fans probably going to come up with this argument: speed scaling in part 7. If you don't know, if somehow you forgot about this, part 7 just doesn't have a lot of speed feats for whatever reason. So this leads a lot of people to say that Tusk Act 4 isn't very fast, and definitely isn't fast enough to keep up with a stand like the World, who can be scaled to massively faster than light speeds. But there are two arguments you can say for Tusk being that fast. One of them being is the fact that Tusk Act 4 is able to break down D4C Love Train's light barrier. A lot of people see this as a speed feat. It can be more AP than speed, but just the fact that he was able to rip it down and just was able to crawl through it is kind of a speed feat for a lot of people. That's the loose one here, and even I don't agree with that one very well or very much with it. The other one is more of a writing standpoint. What was the point of giving Diego the world and fighting Johnny? It's a clear parallel to the part 3 fight between Jotaro and Dio, and in that fight, these characters are supposed to be the strongest in the world, massively faster than light stands, who are able to, you know, destroy buildings in a single punch, or able to, you know, block the sun with their punches. So you could say here that Dio's world and Diego's world are a one-to-one comparison, at least in a narrative writing standpoint kind of power scaling argument here. And it kind of works, because if you remove the prep time, more or less the Diego versus Johnny fight is just literally Dio versus Jotaro. Now I know some people are going to argue against that, but that's what it truly is at the end of the day. It's supposed to be a callback to that fight. Steel Ball Run is literally made to be a kind of, you know, redoing of the franchise, or just like trying to call back to previous parts in a new universe. A one-to-one comparison of characters isn't too crazy to think about. So Johnny winning and putting the corpse in the bunker, and basically the ending of Steel Ball Run stays more or less the same here, I guess. The only thing changing here would just be the interactions at the very end. Johnny would be very confused, and just seeing this alternate counterpart, you know, ruin his life would be weird to see in front of him, I guess. It would just more or less, this fight would just be for character interaction at the end of the day, which would be kind of cool, but it wouldn't really change the story all too much, which is kind of cool, honestly, and I don't know why Araki didn't do that. To be honest, Dio kind of gaining the world in and of itself, at least within Steel Ball Run, is kind of a what if, honestly. So it's kind of weird, at least, you know, thinking about it like that. But for argument's sake, fuck it. Johnny loses. I don't know. Dio actually does take out Slow Dancer, and is faster than him, and just has every advantage in the book. I don't know. He just starts using his vampiric abilities for whatever reason. He just starts winning. I don't know. Something really stupid and illogical happens in this fight that I just didn't account for, and Johnny loses. What happens? Well, that would mean that Dio is now in possession of the Holy Corpse, and is now stuck in an alternate universe with no way back, because probably by this time, Valentine is most likely dead, or is struggling to, you know, live. And with no Joestar to fort him, and, you know, of course, the Joestar thing to do is have kids, and there's none of them around, Dio lives in a quote-unquote perfect world to do the heaven plan with no problem. And by the time, you know, him realizing this, he probably realizes he's in an alternate universe and this isn't some, you know, cracked out dream. And at some point, he'd probably figure out there should be somebody similar to Pucci in this universe for this plan to happen. We get reverse Eyes of Heaven. Yeah. Really, really weird, I know. And it probably will be successful this time, honestly. So, yeah, really, really goofy, honestly, thinking about it in the long run. But to play devil's advocate, I don't think it would happen. I truly do see Johnny and Tusk Act 4 winning here. you know, I just don't see Dio, you know, coming out victorious in this fight. Well, that's going to be the end of the video. If you guys want more what ifs in the future, leave a comment, like, maybe even give me an idea, something along the lines of that. I kind of do like doing these videos because they're just kind of a thought experiment for me to just kind of power scale and just have fun with. Like, comment, share, subscribe, follow me on Twitter, stay hydrated. See you in the next one, ladies and gentlemen.